second. Come on, Twitch. Just quick old sound test, make sure I'm coming through loud and clear. Okay, I'll just speak so we can hear you.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4.
We are good. We are good on audio. That's all I have to do just before each stream. Right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to RFL for round number 21, which brings us to the Baku Street Circuit. Well, we say street circuits. It's one of the fastest street circuits, I believe, one of the longest straights on most of the calendar, if I am 100% correct. Very low numbers for this once again, but that's kind of to be expected with kind of what goes on with league racing at the moment. But before we carry on, welcome once again my co-comp. Welcome Cal to the stream once again. Looking forward to some racing action coming up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, as you say, obviously the numbers these days, as you say, not as good as potentially could be, but yeah, we've still potentially got a very exciting race to go tonight, and yeah, hopefully we do see some of the best of the action here.
Baku obviously is very much a circuit where you get rewarded for having a lot of straight line speed, but you do need some level of downforce. So how much sort of focus do you reckon the drivers have given towards having some levels, say, of downforce to go along with the straight line speed? Because obviously you'd have to have a little bit of a compromise for a track like this.
Yeah, definitely, and obviously with that really long pit straight, there's also going to be it's going to be quite beneficial in that part of the circuit to have as low wings as possible. However, for the rest of the track through the corners, obviously the barriers are very close to the inside and the outside, so a small sort of mistake or running too low a downforce is obviously gonna hinder drivers through the corners, and yeah, just how much of a sacrifice will they be willing to make through those corners? And yeah, we'll probably see drivers running pretty low wings, but not. I don't think the lowest.
I don't think we'll see Monza
ones.
levels.
Yeah, not quite there, but somewhere close to there, depending on how much of a risk the drivers are willing to take to get that straight line speed.
Indeed, obviously Baku very much most of the corners are 90-degree corners. It's kind of 90-degree rights or lefts. There's not really a lot of flow to the track for some people. I mean, it's a track that divides opinion in terms of what people think about it. Some people love it, some people hate it. What's your sort of personal preference when it comes to it?
It does have a lot of sort of memorable moments in the real life sense over the years that the F1 has been going to Azerbaijan, and yeah, it usually produces a fair amount of overtakes as well. Obviously with the amount of straights that is indeed in the track, and yeah, it's got some pretty famous moments from qualifying and the races as well.
Yes, we're always to come to those if there's any sort of gaps, obviously, with the racing action, obviously, itself. But while we are waiting for the session to load up, looking like a dry session at the moment, standings. Obviously, we know that Vapid pretty much has sealed up his championship. Scott's still in second, 178 points, I believe that is 170.5 points to Angelo in third, obviously. It is a close battle for third place between Angelo and Tom, with Kirby not too far behind. But the more important one for this is the constructors. Only half a point after USA. 250 points for Williams, 249.5 for Alpine, due to the incident that happened with half points at China. But once again, it's really a matter of both parties from both teams doing well.
Yeah, definitely. We do have uh, both the drivers from both the teams here again this evening. So yeah, that's possibly going to be one of the main things to be looking out for as we go through the qualifying session and then the sprint race and the full race as well.
Indeed, as XCR Senna has already broken his front wing. There's an Alpine in the middle of the straight. I don't know what is going on there. I'm not entirely sure what I've just seen. Very curious to know exactly what's happened there. But as we're on board with the Alfa Romeo driver button at the moment, it is crucial to note one thing. Just the proximity of how close the walls are to the edge of the track. On most of the locations, you don't really have any give with the track. It's much like Monaco in a way.
Yeah, definitely. As you say, the walls are obviously very close, and obviously this section we're in now, the castle section, is very narrow indeed. So it's one small mistake will potentially put a driver out of the race and out of a qualifying session as well, potentially.
Indeed, obviously we saw that Vapid had an incident qualifying last week, and this is definitely more of a wheel track than a pad track in terms of the fact there's a lot more use of maximum lock to lock with the wheel than you can do with the pad. But obviously, as we see, I think Button is going to be our first one to set a lap time around this particular circuit. We'll get a lap time on board with someone in a little bit, but this track does reward bravery if you to get how close you want to get to the walls. It is much like Monaco in a way.
Yeah, I mean on the bravery, particularly sort of in the second sector, that's probably it's got the fastest corners of the track as well, so you can definitely make up some time as well with in that section as well as through the final two corners as well. Obviously flat out corners. And yeah, it's definitely something to watch out for.
Indeed. And I don't know if this is a bug and it's just me seeing this, but there is an Alpine that is stopped in the middle of the straight. And I don't know if you can see that in the minimap as well.
I can see that as well.
I know that one of the Alpines is having a little bit of internet troubles. I believe that's Kirby. So
Yeah.
I don't know where he actually is. Because I did see an Alpine exit the pits, but there's an Alpine just sitting in the middle of the straight who's ghosted, which cannot be the most helpful for drivers going around in qualifying laps.
Yeah, that's a bit of a weird one. Not really seen this before. This is a new thing for me anyway.
Another new bug for the game. I mean, one thing gets fixed, about 7 other things get broken.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, this is not a stream really to completely bag on Codemasters and EA for creating a terrible game, because, well, there are many things that need to be fixed, but we can only live and hope as to whether or not they'll actually fix these issues. Let's be honest, as I believe XCR Button is coming around to finish his first lap, and will be the first to set a banker time. I believe Scott in the Haas is going to be just behind to set a lap time. So here comes down the line, 1 minute 41.4. I believe that time will probably most likely be beaten by Scott, who is currently in the middle sector at the moment. And obviously, the Haas driver here he's had an up and down season. I mean, he's had some good results, but then it has also been matched up with some, let's just say, less than expected results from the Haas driver.
Yeah, definitely. There's obviously been good potential there. Obviously, winning a few of the races this season, but also there's been sort of a lot of bad luck throughout the season as well for him. Obviously, I think that the most recent one I can remember is the unfortunate incident at Canada, which obviously he DNF'd in that race, so that obviously was not ideal at all. But yeah, he's gonna hope to try and finish the season strongly, and yeah, see where the rest of the season goes.
140.9 for him. I believe Sora is going to be next to cross the finish line. I believe, obviously, Sora, who won by 30 odd seconds last time out in USA, he's definitely come on leaps and bounds throughout the season. Obviously, we know that Sora has pace anyway, but no one could really touch him last week in terms of just what pace he really had. And on a track that really revolves around survival and keeping yourself out of trouble, this really could help him. as he does a 39.9. I expect there's going to be some quicker lap times than that from him, but it was just a dominant victory from the Mercedes driver last time out.
Yeah, it was. Obviously, as you say,
And
it
why
was.
is so fresh in intermediates? I have just noticed.
Oh, is that
I
another
don't know if
game
that's a
glitch?
glitch. Is that a get? Is he on intermediates for years, or is that just
I'm
me?
trying to see.
Oh, he's broken part of his front wing anyway.
Yes, he
I
is for
think
me
he's
as
just
well.
gone through
Yeah.
like. Oh, that's a. So fresh. I'm not sure about that one, but all right. He's also using. Yeah, that must be a game glitch. He's gone back into the pit, so he probably does have wing damage. I think it's going to be Vapid to come round next. Indeed, Vapid is currently on a set of the medium compound tires, so that's the big thing though, obviously, what that came a few patches ago was the ability to select tires, which you obviously didn't have at the beginning of the game. I don't know if you would have raced with this or not, you obviously have a chance of racing with it next season, Season 9, but how much do you reckon that made changes to the driver's decision making when taking their tire allocation when going into the race weekend?
Yeah, because obviously now I think on the bound set you get an extra set of the mediums as well. So maybe with that, along with the fact that sometimes the game can put you on the mediums for the sprint race. So maybe Vapid's doing one
Indeed, we
run
have seen that.
on the mediums just so that sort of doesn't happen, and possibly saving at least one set for the sprint race. So maybe that's part of what's going on here, or yeah, maybe Vap is just wanting a little bit of the feel of the car on the mediums before he gets to the soft tires later in the session.
Who knows? Senna goes across the line with a 44.1, but he's not actually using any ERS because that ERS bar hasn't moved. Don't know why he's going around just not using ERS. I'm very curious about the decision making of that one, and that Alpine is still there. Okay, now Sofresh is in the right compound of tyres. But for the number 2 drivers of obviously Alpine and Williams, what is kind of the main thing that really they should be aiming for in terms of making sure that they keep their respective drivers behind them?
Yeah, I mean obviously, first of all, it's important as we get towards the end of the season. Obviously, the constructors getting very close indeed, as we've said. But yeah, first and foremost, it's important to be finishing the races here because every finishing position is going to get you more and more points. So yeah, obviously keeping out of trouble is going to be one of the important things, and yeah, just try and get the best performance possible, and try and help your teammate as well along the way if possible.
Indeed, I believe now we will actually take around a lap of the Baku City circuit. We will go around a lap with Sofresh in the Williams. If you want to take it away, Cal.
Yeah, so obviously going up through the gears as we go flat out through the last few corners, maybe a little bit of a lift for the Williams is so fresh, just to avoid any contact with the wall possibly, but the DRS is going to be opening just about now, and yeah, into 8th gear, and now starting the lap and looking towards the first braking zone down into 2nd gear, and that's very wide into the first corner, but just about avoids the wall as well, as we now go down to turn 2 and down into 2nd gear once more, and now the second of the DRS zones of this track as we go past the Ghosted Alpine, and now into what is turn 3, another 90-degree left-hander here, and now into turn 4 as well, getting on the curb there, which would maybe be on the inside a little bit to avoid, as well as the turn 6 one curb is there. That's curbed a little bit high, so it can sometimes be not so good to go over, but now turn 7, very tight hairpin corner into first for the Williams is so fresh, but now into the Kappa section, very narrow indeed, and just about avoids the walls there, and now that's a little bit wide on exit as well, but the lap is still valid at this point in the lap, and flat out now as we head down the hill, down to the left-hander and the penultimate braking zone, and that does unfortunately hit the wall there, and now onto what is the last braking zone of the lap, missing the apex a little bit there, but still is able to get onto the power, and now it's just flat out to the line through the left-hander and right as well, and now up into 8th gear, a little bit of a scrape of the wall there, but just about managed to survive, and now it's opening the DRS and over a drag race to the line now, as SoFresh will cross it now, and where's it going to be?
It was a 44.3. I know that wasn't a perfect lap from him, but so I would expect that he should be able to improve on that particular lap time. It's a point that obviously that I do want to make about just a little bit, sort of a little bit about circuit design. Obviously, I believe this one was Tilke inspired to a point, and I know some of the tracks that Tilke made have actually are quite good, sort of your Malaysias and stuff, but I want to know, I'm going to get your opinions on what you think about a track like this where it just seems like it's constant 90-degree either lefts or rights.
Yeah, obviously the 90-degree sort of repeats of corners, I suppose. It's
Oh dear.
they're not.
I've just noticed the Vapid got held up by his own
Oh,
teammate there.
yeah. I mean, yeah, they're not always the best, but sometimes they can, sort of with the straights between them, offer good overtaking zones. So that can be a case, but yeah, particularly during qualifying, as Finns is able to join the session now, it can be a little bit repetitive, but yeah, it does also allow for the very long straight as well, so in a way it does help with the circuit, but yeah, I think maybe there could be, I don't know, maybe just obviously with the way the streets are designed, you can only do so much, so I think they've not done a bad job of what they've been able to work with, but yeah. Yeah, be interesting to see if anyone essentially in the chat has got other opinions as well.
Indeed, if anyone is in chat, I don't know if anyone is also in chat at the moment. It's the one viewer at the moment. But you obviously brought up the thing about the street circuits, obviously, and street circuits are obviously a very different breed to what is your sort of your purpose-built circuits. I mean, you have a lot more undulations than you would normally have in a purpose-built circuit, and do you think this, I know this is in the game obviously, but do you reckon this has effects like say coming through your wheel or your controller a lot more than what you would on say a purpose-built circuit?
I mean, yeah, obviously the street circuits can be a bit more bumpy at times. I think sort of one example of that would be after Casino Square at Monaco, the bit where we all sort of go to the
Is
right
that
and avoid the bump going into Mirabeau.
I believe that is the run into Mirabeau,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So I suppose that can be one example where it's just a big bump that everyone sort of avoids on a street circuit. But yeah, there's obviously.
Oh.
Not ideal.
Bear with
there.
me. I was just on board with someone and yeah, the game just crashed. Hang on, just bear with. The game just flat out crashed. Hang on. Thanks, game.
Oh, there's a. Oh no, that's just someone letting someone else by.
I don't know what time I do not know what time Angelo did because I was on board with his car and the game just decided that it had enough with frame rate and it just booted me straight out. That is a good one, game. Don't nice to know that even commentators aren't immune from this game being absolutely terrible.
Yeah. I think Ando's just gone into the pits there, so he's still yet to.
He's decided, obviously.
Along with
right.
Finns and Kirby as well, so.
Sorry about that. Slight delay.
Yeah.
There we go.
I think we've got.
Hopefully that didn't cause too many issues
I
with
think
the
we've
lobby.
got
Making sure I can
Finn's
still hear you.
on his first lap.
Yep, I can still hear you. That is good.
Yeah.
Okay, I am now back in the lobby again. Oh, Sora has retired,
Oh.
so he's done.
Yeah, I think that's in the pit lane though. So.
Yeah, he's decided that's
Yeah.
him done.
Yeah. Oh, that's a bit of a wall hit from Finns, and I see a lot of carbon fibre at that corner, and another hit into the castle section as well.
Finns doesn't have a front wing.
Yeah, he's made a couple of contacts.
Yep, he
with
doesn't
the
have a
wall
front
there.
wing.
Yeah.
Finns is starting from the back of the grid here. This is a bit of a concern, unless that's a glitch and he does have a front wing, but
No,
I'm fairly sure he doesn't.
Hit the wall a couple of times. Firstly into turn 7, and then again into the entrance of the castle section.
To note though, someone obviously we didn't talk about, because obviously we're talking about Street Circus obviously, Sora set a 39.2, which was 6/10 quicker than Tom Gorian. I'm not sure, is anyone going to be able to get near that time? Oh, Senna I believe has crashed, or he's retired. No, he's crashed at turn 1.
Oh, and Finns has just crashed as well at turn 1.
Yep. So why? I wonder why he was carrying on with no front wing. That's a very curious one.
Yeah, well he's finished his lap. He's gone in 6th.
So Fresh has also collected the wall as well. So
Yeah.
So Fresh I think is done. I might have got some wing damage off that, but it's not going to help.
that's
Oh,
another
now he's
crash.
definitely yep. That's 3 people that have now had incidences with one of the walls. And that Alpine is still there in the same place it was before. Kirby has not been able to get a lap in. I mean, Kirby obviously has been struggling a little bit with Wi-Fi going into this race, so I believe he said he was racing on a hotspot, so that can either go one of two ways, really well or really badly. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean
To note at the moment though, the big surprise for me that I've noted is Button up in 3rd. I mean, that's not...
In the past, I've myself tried to run on a hotspot, and it just didn't really work at all. So, but yeah, it's a good lap from Button to put himself currently in P3 on the grid for the sprint race. But it is
Yep.
indeed very close behind with less than a second.
I mean,
less than a
I can't
tenth of
believe
a second
Scott is
even,
just getting a...
covering
Yeah, I'm guessing... sorry. I was going to say that Scott is getting a toe off of Tom here.
Yeah, and
Well, a distant toe, but he's getting a toe.
yeah, Vapid puts himself P2 with a 140.4.
Yep, Vapid complaining that he was slow going into this. I'm not entirely sure how much of that I can believe. Tom did say he can do 39, so let's see if he can get across the line with a 1 minute 39. It's looks to be 1 minute 40. And Scott, with the slipstream, gets himself into the low 40s, 40.1.
Yeah,
Pretty close there between them.
obviously a good use of the slip there from Scott.
Yep. I mean, Tom's not going to be as pleased by that, but Scott being very opportunistic there in the Haas.
Yeah, and that is the end of the qualifying session.
Yep. Sora. Well, we can't really say anything more than what we've already said. He's just bloody quick.
Yeah.
0.8 of a second to Scott. That's an even bigger gap than there was before. He improves his lap by 0.6 of a second. Tom Gorian will start from P3 for the sprint with Vapid in P4. Button in P5. Not a good result. Not a bad result for him. Finn's in P6 obviously did manage to get 1 lap in the board before he crashed, with Senna in P7 obviously not getting the most ideal time in either, with So Fresh being the last of the runners obviously not getting a ideal lap in either. And then it's not the most ideal qualifying for either Angelo or Kirby there.
Yeah, obviously those two not able to get in a time, which is unfortunate. But yeah, they've got the sprint race to try and make up as many positions as possible.
Does depend on whether or not Kirby can keep himself connected.
Yeah,
That's going to be the most important thing in there, but that's kind of a concern really for the Alpine team if they can't get keep one of their drivers connected to the session here.
yeah. Obviously, it could be very important in the constructors, as we say. Obviously, there's I think it was the half a point you said, that the gap between the two teams. So yeah, it's
It
obviously
is indeed.
very important for both teams to get as good a result as possible in these last few races of this season.
And obviously, I believe Angelo and Tom are not too far apart on points either. Looking obviously at the driver standings, obviously with Angelo just about keeping himself in front of the Alpine driver at the moment. So the Alpine driver, one of the Alpine drivers, at least got something to aim for. And then obviously Kirby being the most consistent number 2 this season, I believe he's only really been out of the points 3 or 4 times throughout the entire season, and he's been showing that despite a few not being the quickest, he's been thereabouts just to pick up points whereabouts anything happens.
Yeah, obviously I'd say he's had a pretty consistent season, and yeah, he was unlucky to not really be on the podium so far this season, I believe. So yeah, he'll be
Yeah,
hoping for some good results in these last few races.
indeed, I do believe that he's the only one of the few drivers in this league so far this season that has not managed to score a podium. But he's been, in terms of being consistent in terms of points, he just has not managed to get himself onto that. But who knows? Obviously, Baku is very much like Monaco in a way. It's a survival track. You
Yeah,
don't often need to push 100% in order to do well, which really does help you in terms of just keeping out of trouble, really.
yeah, definitely. It's obviously really important to keep it out of the walls, and I I had a race on this circuit on this game a few months ago where there was in the qualifying session, the sprint race and the main race, I crashed in all 3 sessions. So that was a race that didn't really go well at all for me there. So hopefully no one suffers that fate here tonight. But yeah, yeah, just it's obviously important to keep out the walls.
Because obviously, as we say, the proximity of the walls being so close together means that there's not that much room for error.
Yeah, exactly. Just one sort of lock up or going too much over a curb can just unsettle the car. And yeah, as we saw towards the end of the qualifying session, any sort of mistake, unfortunately, is gonna really put you in the wall.
Indeed, you'd indeed be correct in that, as we do have the timer on for the start of the sprint race and the 5-lapper action to set the main grid for the main feature race. So we see some good action. Just see as the timer does count down, 5 seconds left until we go racing. Obviously, no formation lap on this one, as you would expect with a 5-lap race. It's going to be interesting to see who does the best, as per normal, on cold tyres, as the lights are coming on for the 5-lapper race here in Azerbaijan. And it is lights out and away we go. Looks like a decent start from Sora there in towards turn 1, but it looks like Scott is going to even better start, and he leads into turn 1. There's a big dive bomb there. Sora's dropped down to P4, so not an ideal start for him there. He's got dive bombed by, I think, by both Tom Gorin and Vapid. They're side by side as we head in towards the second corners. They go side by side. Tom Gorin trying to push Vapid across. Obviously, we know these two might not well be the friendliest, knowing these two need to fight for positions. As Vince gets the position there, as Vapid's up the inside, and it looks like Sora is going to try and make a move back up the inside of Tom. Obviously, we know that he's had a bad start here, but look, Scott, 1.7 seconds in the lead, and battling behind is going to help him out.
Yeah, and obviously Sora going from pole to P4 in the space of a few corners, so that's obviously not the best of starts for them. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see whether he's going to be able to make any overtaking call, or if he's going to stay in that position.
Indeed, obviously 2 seconds now. Vapid seeming, obviously we know Vapid is indeed on a pad around here, whereas Tom Goring's probably on a wheel, as well as Sora. I do think it's very close to these three right here, and obviously we do have Angela a little bit further back as well. He's looking in the back of So Fresh, who looks like he's already falling out of range as well, as Kirby has lost connection to the session once again, pretty much at the back of the field, so not ideal for him. His connection, his hotspot not holding up at the moment, so he needs to find some improvements. And at this moment in time, it is advantage Williams in the points.
Yeah, it is. It is as you say. And we've got Angelo making the overtake on Sofresh as well.
Sora's pushing his way through, and I think he's going to get 2 positions in one go.
Wow, that is
a little bit. That was kind of forcing the door open there from Sora, I'd say.
Yeah, but as that's happened, Scott has now got a 2.5 second advantage out in front.
Yep, XCR Senna's into the pits on lap 1, obviously wing damage for the Mercedes driver, so while one Mercedes driver now wants to look to try and get himself back past, and there's Senna retiring from the session, so he will take no further part in that as Finns is up the inside of Button and remotes the Alfa Romeo driver down to P6, Finns up himself up to P5. Good overtake there from the Red Bull driver, and now he's in this train himself.
Yeah, and it's pretty much nose to tail as we go through the sort of middle sector, and this might...
Vapid, oh no, it's a bit wobbly there from Vapid. I think he's alright though, carry on.
Yeah, I was just going to say this might result in a few more overtakes as we head down the pit straight here.
If DRS enabled on the next lap, Angelo's now got
P6,
himself passed as well.
Yeah, Angelo gets P6 away from Button.
Yep, but I'm not sure that's the wisest place to really make the move, because now the Alfa Romeo driver can come straight back at him.
Yeah, and unless it's going to be a very good final braking zone from Angelo to make up the 2/10 he needs, or he'll potentially have to try and deplete all his battery as well to try and stay ahead.
Well, he's using the battery, but it's not managing to keep himself away. 0.6 of a second. Finns is now This is one thing I don't think Vapid or Tom thought about here, was the fact that the pace of Finns. Obviously we know Finns is nowhere in the championship, but he could be a massive cork in the bottle here between oh dear!
No.
That's Finns out. Finns is out. I think he's clipped the wall. That's not ideal for Tom Gorian, because that now means he's now been demoted back to 7th, and now Vapid's up to 3rd.
Yeah, that's pretty disastrous for Alpine as well, because they're now...
sure what I was... Yeah, 7th and 8th, and Kirby's not even in the lobby, so... I mean, he is in the lobby, he's just not having the best of luck when it comes to staying connected. And Soulfresh is now ahead as well, so that's not ideal there either.
And yeah, Vapid's
I think that Vapid is struggling here. I know he's on pad here, but meanwhile to note as well, Sora's closed the gap 1.6 seconds to Scott from where he was. Obviously not too many laps, and obviously Sora, that bad start hasn't really helped out the Mercedes driver as such. She'll be open for a better start in the main feature race. Now Angelo needs to close up to the back of Vapid. He's fell out of a second though once again. He's just about hanging on there now, but the Ferrari driver needs to get himself closer if he wants to make the move with DRS. But obviously, with the trial of this, 2 DRS zones being right after each other, run in towards turn 1 and then out of the second corner, I believe it is. The square left-hander heading on to the end of sector 1. It's to know whether or not you really want to make the move in certain places or wait.
Yeah, I think it could be close.
Angelo's definitely not waiting.
Here. Yeah, Angelo's going to be waiting for the next DRS zone.
I will say one thing for Angelo though, he used almost the entire battery to get past there, and he couldn't, and it's not really worked there.
Yeah,
obviously he needs to save a little bit.
Wanted to try and close up as much as possible, but yeah, he's maybe just used a little bit too much, and as we say that, Sora's got within 7/10 of Scott for the lead.
It's just the pace Sora has in clean air.
Yeah.
But going back on that incident between Finns and Tom, I think Finns tried to go around the outside of a place where you're not really going to make a move stick, and the line that you take into that corner, the car that is on the inside there is always going to be the car that has the grid position, really.
Yeah,
or the trap position, rather.
Yeah, it could potentially be looked at after the race, but yeah, it was a case of the driver in front and on the inside. Tom was just able to go out wide a little bit, and
And he's
And
just
yeah,
past
there's
so fresh
obviously
there. Not too much problem there for Tom Gordon getting past there, but a huge gap now. But look at the gap that Sora has just closed. Like, there was a huge gap there as Kirby's retired from the session. That's not ideal there. So he's lost it coming to the place where I think we're around a bit where Roman Grosjean lost it in real life.
yeah, and battle for the lead as well.
And Sora is already through. I believe Scott didn't really fight him at all.
Yeah, he tried to break the slipstream, but it just wasn't really enough.
I wonder
obviously,
though
with
if
the
this is a tactical play by Scott though, because Scott now can get the DRS, he sits behind for this lap, gets to the straight, saves a little bit of the battery, and then gets past, but Sora is not really using the battery, whereas Scott is using a lot of his battery to try and get back past. Is Scott going to send it back down the inside? I'm not sure. It'd be wiser for Scott to wait here and try and get himself past on the next straight. However, he's going to go round. He's going to go round the outside of Sora here. Sora honestly can just sit behind and wait for the action really to come back to him now, because he's now got the upper hand in terms of where he can get the result from, because he's now got the correct place where he wants to be. And Scott, I'm not sure really if it was maybe worth him waiting a little bit.
Yeah, maybe it's a case of he just wants to be in front to possibly hope for a good exit out the last corner. But yeah, we'll shortly see whether that does work out or if not.
Indeed. As I believe it's going to be a photo finish down towards the end of the run. Obviously, we've seen photo finishes in real life before, I believe, between Bottas and Stroll. 2017, I believe it was, in real life. Is the same thing going to be recreated here between Scott and Sora? Scott has got to hold on now here. He's going to have all the battery usage. We're getting on board, as you'll see that Mercedes is very close. I believe Sora has a little bit more deployment than what Scott does. Now Scott is just going to have to use all the battery and maybe a little bit more if he has any. Look at the gap. He has to go round to the outside. Sora round the outside, as Scott is going to have to hold on, but it's not going to be enough. He is going to lose it down towards the line, and that's the danger really you have with if you're not careful with where you make your overtakes.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, Sora able to use the DRS there to take the sprint race victory on the line there, and yeah, obviously the pole position for the main race that comes with it.
So basically got himself back into... So Sora, even though with a bad start, still managed to get himself back to the lead. That is just a pace difference. As that is the end of the sprint race, Sora, as I say, picks up all 3 points from this. I believe it will be Scott to pick up 2 points for P2, and then it will be Vapid with the one crucial point to keep themselves a little bit further ahead of Alpine going into this race, the main feature race. So Sora, Scott and Vapid on the podium and take the points for the sprint. Vapid with Angelo on P4. Button will start from P5. Tom Gordon, not ideal for him with the incident with Fins, and obviously Fins might feel a little bit aggrieved there with some of the stuff that happened. We'll have to see with tickets. So Fresh will finish in 7th and the last car to finish. Then it was the DNS were Kirby, Fins and XCR Senna, the non-finishers. With some of the action we've seen, hopefully 26 laps of racing should be interesting as we go towards the feature race up next.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, a lot of potential for some good battles, and yeah, obviously there's going to be that element of a bit of survival as well. But yeah, it's shaping up to be a pretty good race, I'd say.
Indeed. As I think we're still waiting for the drivers anyway to ready up. So while we are waiting for the drivers obviously to ready up and carry on, any sort of standout moments really from yourself, obviously in terms of league racing or from say sort of real life?
Yeah, there was, I think, in terms of myself, yeah, I think probably one of the worst moments I've had at this track, I touched on it a bit earlier, was, yeah, obviously crashing out in all 3 of the sessions, in a race. Yeah, I think just with sort of the audio issues that I was having at the time as well, that didn't really help either. So yeah, it was actually in the qualifying session, I hit the wall at turn 5 on my outlap, so that did not go well at all. That was quite an embarrassing moment, I'd say. But in terms of good moments that I've had, if going back like a few years now, I'd say. But yeah, in season 2 of RFL, for at that time I was a tier 2 driver, and I managed to get on the podium at this track. So yeah, that was a good moment for myself. And yeah, there's been lots of sort of standout real life moments that have been pretty memorable to most people. There's yeah, one that you obviously touched on earlier was the Grosjean incident under the safety car, when
The infamous Ericsson
yeah,
Hideous.
when his race engineer said that, that was yeah,
When he was nowhere near him.
yeah, so yeah, there's that one. Oh, there's quite a lot, and there's a lot of things.
I mean, you've got the infamous magic button incident with Lewis Hamilton,
Yeah,
where he left the button on and went straight on into turn 1.
yeah, that's obviously a more recent one that's happened. And yeah, there's the
I mean, I believe it was Bottas and Stroll, obviously 2017, which I believe was Williams won a few podiums really in terms of the last few years.
obviously the sort of photo finish moment. And yeah, we had the Hampton and Vettel moment at the top of the hill, under the safety car. That was quite a big moment. Obviously with the what seemed to be for Vettel at the time was the brake check, which probably wasn't really a brake check, but it appeared to
Or
appeared to him at the time.
or as it was said in Vettel's words, he brake tested me.
Yeah, and then the subsequent turning in as well, and the hands flying.
Hand gesture,
yeah.
which
And
yes, the very typical Italian thing of using your hands to describe that,
Yeah,
even though he's not Italian.
yeah, we've obviously we all know the Leclerc qualifying incident where he hits the wall at the castle section.
Indeed, and the infamous quote that
Yeah.
came from that, "I am stupid."
Yeah.
I wonder if we'll see anyone do that same thing tonight. Who
Possibly,
knows?
yeah. And
I mean, I know I've done that from league racing in a qualifying session at some point. I mean, I can also remember for myself, like around here, having a race where there was, I think, 5, 6 safety cars, and we had like 12 people racing
Yeah.
on 2018. Just that's how sort of messy this track can get if you have people crashing out
yeah, it can.
and safety cars coming at every few laps here or there.
Yeah, also as you say, it can be quite sort of safety car central, where they just follow on from each other. And yeah, another moment I remember quite well is the Red Bull crashing into each other incident at turn 1. That was
Yes, 2018. Was it 2018? I believe that was between Ricardo. It was 2018 or 2019. I think it was 2018. Yeah, between Ricardo and Verstappen. I believe that was Ricardo's last year in Red Bull, because he went to Renault the following year, if I remember correctly, for 2019. So yeah. Also, Scott in the chat, I've seen, thought he could keep Sora behind. Didn't quite work out that way, but I'm lucky on that one, Scott. You've still got the main race to come, obviously. If you can get a start like you did, you should be alright. But as we head into sort of the main action for this particular 26 laps of this circuit, it's a very different breed, this track, when it comes to longer races. I mean, you've got to... Corner cut warnings aren't really going to be a thing with this particular track, because there's not many corners you can actually cut, as all of them are quite lenient. But what do you reckon is going to be in the drivers' minds the most as they head into this?
Yeah, obviously it's a circuit where you need to be concentrated the whole time. Even if you're, for example, out in front dominating, you still have to be sort of on your toes, because it can be a case where you can potentially lose concentration just for one moment when you're out in front, and that can uh, crash out your chances of getting the result that you probably deserve to get at that point. But yeah, you just all the drivers will need to stay concentrated and yeah, hope that they can keep their cars out of the walls.
That is going to be the main word of the day. Probably we'll probably hear us say a lot is keeping out of the walls, because you don't have to drive at 110% on a track like this just to get a good result. I mean, really, for all you know, you could honestly just drive around a little bit slower than you normally would, and you'll still get a decent result out of it.
Yeah, 'cause obviously every driver that finishes is going to be scoring points, so it's yeah, obviously very important. Even if you're potentially not going at 100%, just still to not give up, keep in the race, and you never know really what can happen with safety cars and all that good stuff.
You're indeed correct. Obviously, safety cars can come out very regularly on the track like this, and I mean, any strategy really is most likely to be thrown out the window at some point, because if there is a safety car late on, I could imagine a few people potentially, if it stays dry, going for a set of the soft tyres, maybe to try and get an upper hand. Be interesting to see what tyres people do actually go for in terms of the start. Have a quick look, see if anyone has opted for that, as sometimes this game does like to glitch out. Thank you. Looks like everyone is slightly going for the mediums, apart from Tom and Finn's. From the looks of it, everyone else is on the mediums. I wouldn't expect anyone to be touching the soft at the moment, but if people think they have the tire whispering skills of Sergio Perez, they might well go for maybe a bit of an alternate strategy potentially.
Yeah, obviously Sergio Perez has had some pretty good results at this track. Obviously getting that victory and a few podiums here as well. But yeah, looking after tires
That's
could potentially make the difference depending on the timings of the safety cars as well.
Indeed, obviously, for those that start on the hard compound tyres, it's definitely a case in point of just kind of staying out in those early laps if that is indeed the case. But for those on the mediums, may well be worth it to go on to the hard compound tyres, and then if there is no more safety cars, which I don't think is likely on this particular track, but it'd be interesting to see how the drivers, as I say, respond to it all, because it's very hard to get a rhythm going on this track with the amount of safety cars you can see if it is really there are a lot of incidences do happen.
Yeah, obviously safety cars when they come out, you're not sort of driving at race pace, obviously, and so that can yeah, as you say, can disrupt drivers' rhythms and stuff. So yeah, that they could potentially see sort of lapses in concentration because of that, rather than actual sort of mindsets.
And obviously, as both of us are league racers in one way or another for different leagues, um, how important is a good rhythm and a good flow on a track like this?
Yeah, obviously it's massively important. Because yeah, if you're, for example, in clean air and you've got yourself in a good rhythm and a sort of a car that you're racing potentially for position on strategy, if they're sort of not in a good rhythm or if they're battling another driver, they can lose just sort of chunks of time just because they're not going at the sort of same rhythm as the other drivers. So yeah, that can yeah, obviously it's it's pretty big having a good rhythm here.
Indeed, you're correct on that, and just a sort of personal thing really for myself on this track. It's not one of my particular favourites, just in terms of the fact it can be very hard with the stop-start nature of the track, but it's you said yourself you do enjoy it from time to time, but it's why do you think, as I say, that I think I might have already talked about this, but it's like it's a track that divides opinion, but it's just very much some people like it, some people don't, and it's really just a matter of that.
Yeah, I mean, it can also sort of depend on what a driver's driving style is. So yeah, it
Good
might
point
sort
actually
of
on that one.
yeah, it might sort of just sort of not suit a certain driver, um and yeah, it can yeah just not not being good at the circuit
So,
can potentially
I mean, some
yeah
people like purpose-built circuits and some people like street circuits. I mean, would you consider this more of a? I know it's a street circuit, but would you consider this more of like a purpose-built circuit, really, considering the fact that street circuits really aren't known for having like long straights, really, as there's
um
Kirby out of the session once again, still having trouble. Seen him go a few times already. But what would you say this is more of? Is it?
I
It's
mean
technically a street circuit,
yeah
but
if we're going off the sort of it is factually a street circuit, so
oh,
yeah, but it
Scott
does
spun it.
it's obviously it's got the sort of a lot a fair bit of the sections it's got the sort of the it's got more speed than your sort of typical street circuit has got, so yeah, is it it is a street circuit, but it's sort of the speeds don't always sort of reflect that in the terms of there's a lot of long straights which the likes of Monaco and to an extent Singapore doesn't really have that.
I mean, Singapore has the one main straight down Raffles Boulevard, if I'm correct
Yeah.
on that front, because that's like the main straight, and maybe the main straight down there as well. Miami, as well, is obviously the only other street circuit we really have on the game, and I'm not really sure how to class that one either, but that's obviously for a different time. But Miami's kind of like a very similar thing to this, but Miami, we'll obviously talk about this a little bit more if there's quiet periods in the race, but it's Miami's a weird one, really, in
Yeah.
terms of a circuit.
So obviously that's sort of built really on a car park, so you've got a bit more open space to sort of do what you want with that.
Yep. To note, though, that the top three have got to the grid much quicker than everyone else. Or the top three, even.
Yeah,
Well,
that is
Sora's not really slowed down. Sora's now going to get to the grid very quickly, and a few more people have opted for the hard tires now. We've got Sora, who's now on those tires, Scott, who's on those tires, Vapid's opted for medium, so Scott, well, Vapid could be a little bit of a, I don't know what, oh yeah, Sora's finally realised that he was going to be on cold tires and has slowed down. But Vapid could be one to watch early on. Obviously those medium tires will take less time to come up to temperature than what the hard tires will around him.
yeah, obviously going for a different strategy than those around, and that could come into play as the race goes on.
Yep, as the final two cars are forming up on the grid, I believe that is the two Alpines that are about to form up, so we will have the racing action underway here in Azerbaijan in just a matter of a few seconds. The lights are on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights for 26 laps here in the Azerbaijan, and Sora's got a drive through for a jump start, so that's not ideal there for Sora. That now means that he's going to have some work to do earlier on, but sometimes I think that's not really too much of a problem with Sora. He's got enough pace to do that. Now Scott is in P2 and he will inherit the lead when he does come in for that drive-through to be served. So it's going to be very crucial now to Scott. Scott will obviously have seen the fact that that has already happened and now probably wants to go for the race lead. So Button and Sofresh a little bit further back as well, battling a little bit further back. So looks like Finns has fell off the back of this a little bit, but he's got himself up to P6 again. So up a few positions. Looks like Kirby is obviously start away a bit further back in P10. Tom Goring is up to P5 as well, so a good start from him from what was P7 on the grid, gained a few positions himself. But most people, as I say, have held position on the start.
Yeah, and obviously with Sora getting that jump start drive through penalty, that's obviously going to be a big thing in the race, and it's obviously remains to see how that's going to affect the Mercedes driver.
Obviously we know Sora does have pace, so if he wants to really show off now, he's going to have to do it probably a little bit of the harder way, but a track like this which is easier for overtaking than probably a few tracks that's probably the worst to get a drive through on, but not the worst one really to get a drive through on.
I mean, yeah, obviously it's going to be costing quite a bit of time, but yeah, we shall see how that plays out, and yeah, we've got quite a close battle at the front with cars really quite
Yep.
nose to tail as we head down the straight.
We've got, oh, there's Sora serving the drive-through, so he's decided to go for it immediately, so Scott will indeed inherit the lead. It will drop Sora right to the back of the grid, but this is very much now where we're going to see what Sora actually has for pace, because now he's really, obviously in clean air, he's really going to have to make the most of it.
Yeah, and you can't do any sort of tyre change or anything like that as well, so it's obviously same tyres, and now he's got to push pretty hard on these hard tyres.
Yep, he has come out in P9 behind Kirby in the Alpine, so Kirby could be a little bit of a help for his teammate a little bit further up. Tom Gordon has recovered quite well. Obviously, we know he's in P5, and with the fact of the jump start for Sora has meant that he's jumped up to P4, but I feel like it is a very easy sometimes just to let go of the clutch at the wrong time to release and end up with a jump start. I mean, you can either time it really well, or sometimes it could just not be timed well at all.
Yeah, sometimes it can just sort of be accidental as well, so that could potentially be what's happening. Obviously, being on pole, there's sort of no one else in front of you to sort of see going, and then you also react to that, which can sometimes happen as well. So obviously, no one else has done that, thankfully for them. But yeah, we've got Rapid in P2 on the mediums, and he'll be hoping to make use of the softer variant of tyre.
Yep, Rapid on the mediums versus Scott on the softs. I believe he's going to be too far back on this occasion, but there's also a battle going on behind between Tom Gorian and Angelo, and I think Angelo's just about got the legs at the moment, but once again Angelo, as I say, he was struggling a little bit for pace going into all of this. It looks like if Rapid and Scott were very close coming into that.
Yeah, and we've got...
You will probably see Scott snake his way across to there.
Yeah, we've got Fins in P5 closing up to the back of Tom as well.
There's a yellow at the back.
That is so fresh.
That's so fresh, yep.
Yeah.
I think he's went down the escape road. Oh, everyone is still slowed down at the moment. Nope, we've got the yellow flag cleared, so we're back racing once again. Angelo has kind of been a little bit of a helpful hand to Vapid at the moment, because it means that he doesn't have to worry too much about it, as there goes Sora past Kirby for P7. It's a very easy move there for the Mercedes driver, and he's up to P7 again. I wonder what his game plan now is, knowing the fact that with the very slight mistake that obviously he made at the beginning.
Yeah, obviously he's going to want to try and make up the time as quickly as he can, and I think at this stage a safety car would be of help to him as well. But yeah, we obviously don't know if or when that's going to happen, so you can't really bank on that if you are the Mercedes driver there. But yeah, we have Fins tucked right behind the back of Tom Gorian for P4 here.
Yep, Tom Gorian is using a little bit of the battery here, but I think he's not really. I think he might be saving a little bit, because Tom was thinking about moving Angelo there. Oh, that was very close in towards turn number 1. By the Alpine driver. Did think about a move there. Sora sits fast lap the Grand Prix, a 44.446, almost all the 4s and all the 1s. As Finn's using a lot of the battery here to try and get past. Obviously, these two had a little bit of an incident in the session beforehand, the sprint race. Finn's is down the inside, it's side by side between the two drivers, and Tom Gorian loses position to the Red Bull driver.
Yeah, obviously very close between the two cars once again, but yeah, thankfully I don't think there was too much contact this time around, and yeah, Tom is gonna want to keep as close behind as possible through the middle sector, and yeah, hope to use the DRS to his advantage next time around. Oh, and that's a
Oh!
crash. Fins again.
Fins has done it! Oh my word, that is a huge incident. That has got to be a safety car.
Yeah.
Yep, safety car has been deployed for that. And so we said someone might hit the castle section. I don't think I expected someone to hit the wall on the other side.
Yeah, obviously, we're only 4 laps in as well, so it's pretty early on, and I think Tom would have been lucky to not hit the back of the Red Bull as well. So yeah, it
Yeah, I
remains
think he
some-
got lucky. I think he probably had just about had the reaction time for that, but it is very difficult to try and react there. But that's now helped out Sora now to catch right back up to this again. And obviously, as I say, that's all you really need on a track. This is a little bit of luck, and I wonder if we'll see Vapid coming to
Yeah,
the
I think he
pitch.
is.
Yes, Vapid is bailing for the pit lane. Obviously, we know that he can now take the hard tyres if there is not on our safety car towards the end of the Grand Prix. I'd imagine a few of the medium runners will probably come into the pits. I'm thinking Kirby, Saltfish, and Senna will probably. I believe Senna
Yeah.
has been in the pits already once. Senna's retired as well.
Yeah, that's not
Senna's
in the
retired
pits
in the
either.
pit lane.
That's
Oh, he's crashed on track. So
similar
that's two
to
retirements.
that's the sort of the Grosjean area, for want of a better description of it. But yeah,
I think that might pretty much be exactly where Grosjean crashed. Round about the exact pinpoint location of where he crashed as well. It's unlucky there for him, as Sora has now gone back on. He's gone onto a set of mediums.
yeah,
Interesting strategy there from Sora.
I don't think he's going to be able to take those to the end. But yeah, you never know with some good tyre management and
Fins has put in the
potentially
chat,
another
I'm
safety car to come.
stupid. Yep. It's unfortunate there, Fins, for yourself. We were wondering if someone was going to pull a Leclerc there, and unfortunately it was yourself. There was some good pace there from yourself, it just wasn't able to quite show it, unfortunately. So we now have everyone reformed up back on that, but the race has been neutralised a little bit. And a complete reset for all the drivers, and well, I'd say Sora's been bailed out a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. He's obviously got that sort of field compression that's gonna be advantageous to him, and now he's got a tyre advantage as well. But he'll possibly have to pit again if there's not another safety car.
Indeed, and I think Fins forgot to load his setup, so he was like 30 kilometers an hour slower in a straight. Well, that does happen occasionally as well. So, to say chin up, you'll be back next. We'll look forward to seeing you next week out in the next week out in Spa, which should be an interesting experience. Well, again, another very different track we will be going to race at obviously next week. A track with a fair bit more history, really.
Yeah, it's obviously.
Should I say?
It's obviously a massive circuit in terms of the distance of one lap, and also its history as well is pretty massive as well. So yeah,
We'll have a lot to talk about in that particular race. Really, sort of.
yeah,
We have certain things obviously and all that, but while we're obviously, as Angelo has come in for a set of medium compound tyres, he's came back out in P7, which has promoted Tom Gorian up to P2, and I believe his teammate is currently in P6 at the moment. So he's obviously on the hard compound tyres is Kirby, so Kirby will most likely be on the end if there is not an R safety car in this race. What are you thinking now if you're on the hard compound tyres, and what do you do in terms of strategy now in terms of what's happened?
yeah, I think as that's a bit of a glitch for the Alpine of Kirby that I've just seen on screen. But yeah, going back to the question for the drivers who have freshly put on the hards, they can go to the end possibly of the race if there's no more safety cars, so they know that they can push as much as they can, and yeah, they've got that option if they want to stay out to gain some track position to do that. But the top three obviously have to pit again, so they'll be essentially hoping for a safety car later on in the race to get them that advantage. But yeah, we may potentially have the safety car coming in this lap, I believe.
We're waiting for So Fresh to catch up, but I believe he will catch up just as the safety car is about to come in, so I believe that will be in this lap. So Scott will lead us away on the safety car restart. Obviously he sets the pace for the start, so now he can slow down a little bit and back the punch back. Yes, that. My brain just didn't want to work with me there for a second. Basically back everyone up. That's literally what I was wanting to say there. My brain just didn't want to respond there for some reason. Thanks, brain. Anyway, that aside, as Tom Gooding's not really doing any weaving much than the drivers alongside him. Now he is. Now, when does Scott go? Is he going yet? No, he's trying to catch Tom Goring out. He's not managed to do so yet. They have gone now, and I think Button's been caught out a little bit by all of that happening and has fell back a little bit towards turn number 1. We're on board with Vapid at the moment, but it looks like we're going to have Tom Goring, who was thinking about a move up the inside there in towards turn number 2, but the Haas driver does hold on to the position. And is he going to be able to go for a move? Here is the Alfa Romeo driver though, thinking about a move up the inside. He did have a think about it there for a second. Vapid meanwhile does stay behind for the moment. Sora making his way through as well in P5, just behind these two. I'd like to be on the right car, thank you very much. It's not put me on the right car, so we're going to go back to that, and then we'll do that.
Yeah, just
thank you very much, game.
Yeah, a little bit of weaving side to side between turns 4 and 5 from Sora there. So I don't know if he's seen something ahead of him that he's not happy with, but aside from that, we've got the top 12, well, from 2nd to 6th, pretty much nose to tail, and Scott's managed to get 1.5
I think that Tom Goring's made a mistake somewhere.
Potentially.
Because I don't, like a half, maybe a slide, something like that, because he's dropped out of a second, and DRS is pretty much everything on a track like this if you want to save maybe a little bit of battery and conserve for later. Now he's going to have to use the battery to keep himself ahead.
Yeah, and obviously we've got the drivers nose to tail here, so we can expect a couple of overtakes potentially down the straight.
Yep, however, the Alfa Romeo driver is going to have a little bit more pressure from Vapid, who is going to try on Button to pass, but it's going to be very crucial if he is going to be able to do it. Up the inside, is he going to go for the inside? The Alfa Romeo driver is just going to leave just enough space. They go side by side in towards turn number 1, into turn 2, and I believe Vapid is going to have the inside. That's going to also allow Sora up the inside as well as very
as well, yeah.
And he's been dropped all the way back to P6 from what was P4, and I think he's realised that it's not worth fighting it, and he's backed out.
Yeah, obviously a little bit of wall contact there from Button, but hopefully for him it's not going to be too much of an issue as we head onto the rest of the race. And yeah, we've got, as we say, the from 2nd to 6th, nose to tail once again here.
Indeed. As Sora's now got himself up to P4 and he's now directly behind Vapid, and I mean, Vapid at this point is currently looking in a good place, but for the Constructors' Championship at this moment in time, it is still looking like, well, obviously we know Tom and Scott do have to pit, and obviously we know that Button is going to have to pit as well, but at the moment it's looking good for Alpine, but it's going to be crucial for Tom Goring to get the strategy right, because obviously his teammate is also assisting with a few points here and there as well, and beating the other Alpine, the other Williams at the moment, obviously So Fresh. Those two are both on fresh tyres. Looking like that Vapid is going to probably have a go here. Oh, there's contact with the wall there. Yeah. That would have been closer. I believe that was Sora. Who's going to go side by side with the Vapid, and that's an extra curveball thrown in, and Sora's going to go for 2 and 1. And look at the grip, look at the speed difference he actually has as he manages to dart in between the two cars and take P2.
Yeah, but has he done it too early, because he's not going to be getting the DRS down the next straight, so can Tom and potentially Vapid as well take advantage of this year.
Sora must have less wings than what Tom Goring does, because Tom Goring does not seem to be catching in a straight line even with DRS on Sora there, and Sora does keep hold of P2.
Yeah, very much the case, and yeah, seems like it was a pretty good exit from Sora out of turn 2, and that was just enabled him to stay clear of Tom getting too close to him.
Indeed. As Vapid meanwhile now still has Angelo for company, and we know that the people in the drivers on the mediums probably will have to stop again, because the mediums are not going to take you all the way to the end. The mediums are not as durable as the hard compound tyres, and I believe that they will probably be in at some point for maybe another set of mediums or maybe another set of softs if they feel they can deal with the tyre wear, obviously in the game being a little bit more in the softs this year than more in previous years.
Yeah, and obviously potentially seeing if there's going to be another safety car later in the race for them to get that opportunity to change the tyres for the strategy to work. And yeah, just on the last lap there on the wall when Sora hit, I saw Angelo also hit it, so that was very close for him as well, and the Ferrari behind. So
speaking of Sora, he sits fastest lap of the Grand Prix, and he's down the inside of Scott. At this point, Scott probably not too bothered by that. Vapid not able to make the move up the inside of Tom though. And Scott now has found himself back behind the Mercedes driver, but as it looks like it's going to be side by side between Tom and Vapid. Vapid back up the inside, and that demotes the Alpine driver back off the podium. But at this moment in time, I believe that it may well be Williams who have the upper hand in the constructors at this moment in time.
Yeah, obviously they've got Vapid sitting currently P3, having already made a stop.
I believe his teammate has also made a stop as well, so
yeah, I thought for one moment that Angelo was going to try and go side by side with Tom.
That's not really a place you'd really. Yeah, this is not a place you want to be making a move into.
Thought better of that than Angelo.
Yes, as Sora is checking out a little bit at the front now. He's got 1.1 seconds of a gap, and he's obviously, Scott we know hasn't pitted yet, so he will be going into mediums if it all stays the way it's supposed to. Tom Goring meanwhile has still got Angelo for company behind, and now Angelo is looking to make the move on him more than what Tom Goring is on Vapid. I mean, the gap is 0.3 of a second round about that to the back of the Alpine, and then we have Vapid, who is just holding on to the DRS, and it should help him a little bit. But Tom Goring here is going to have to use a little bit of the battery here to keep himself ahead, and I mean, the tyre difference here is going to be huge as he's down the inside. Going to probably lose another position here as the Alpine driver at the moment, so not ideal for him as there goes Angelo up the inside. That's too late on the brakes.
That has not gone well.
It's too late. That's too late on the brakes from the Alpine driver. He's going to have to let him go back through.
Yeah,
he wants to make it look.
However,
he's not.
Button has been able to get in between the two of them, so that's not going to be able to happen.
Angelo is not going to be amused by that, considering what he's seen, and really the Alpine driver should have let him back through. It was too late on the brakes from Tom Goring.
Yeah.
And I wonder if he may well potentially have picked up damage from that, because that was a fairly hefty whack on the back of the Ferrari.
Yeah, and with Angelo on the mediums as well, he could have helped Tom by potentially overtaking Vapids, and now that sort of strategy, I suppose, is sort of out the window for Tom to use.
I can imagine a very angry Swiss Italian in that car at the moment. In that Ferrari, probably his face might well be as red as the colour of that car, potentially.
Yeah, and it's obviously not helped Tom either, because he's lost a lot of time as well. So it's yeah, just quite an unfortunate incident. Obviously, running into the back of each other really. So that's not ideal, but they've got to sort of move on from that now and hope to try and make up for it now.
And obviously Tom on older tyres now, that's not really helped his case either, obviously knowing the fact that he's on one of the oldest tyre sets in the grid, obviously alongside with Scott and Button. And meanwhile, there goes round the outside Angelo. He is not hanging around, he is going for it. He needs to get these moves now done and catch it back up again, and now it is time for round number 2. Is there's a little bit of a wide moment there from Button behind in the Alfa Romeo, who just manages to miss, and Angelo almost had another car from behind wipe him out.
Yeah, it was a good overtake there from Angelo in the Ferrari, and yeah, just a little bit of a look to the fresh air from Angelo, just to sort of show to Tom that yes, he is still there and he's on the mediums, and he'll be looking to try and get as close as possible throughout this lap. And for Angelo, he's going to try and use the dare to try and get past Alpine of Tom.
Yep, obviously we know Tom's probably going to be in the pits sometime soon if there isn't any safety cars to really help them out here. As we were saying, while that's going on, the gap at the front is almost 4 seconds already, and we obviously know Sora's not had the easiest race to try and run away with all this, and he's once again just showing exactly why he's just that quick.
Yeah, definitely, and yeah, a driver who has gone maybe a little bit unnoticed, but could potentially bring himself into play as Kirby, because he is closing up to the back of the Alfa Romeo Button, and he is he's on the fresher set of the hard common tyres.
3 lap younger tyres, I believe.
So if he can sort of bring himself into play, this could potentially work well for Kirby.
Yep. Really though, Tom should be giving that place back, because he did spin the rear of the Ferrari, so I don't know why he hasn't done so.
Yeah, but
there goes Button into the pits.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, but it's just common racing etiquette, really, that if you run into the back of someone, you're supposed to give the position back if you do that and carry on.
We'll maybe see if it happens. If it happens now that they're back one behind one another. Because yeah, obviously.
I believe that we should actually see. If not, then Angelo will probably send that to the stewards, and the stewards will make their decision.
Potentially, yeah, I think it just got a little bit awkward for Tom, because Button obviously got in between the two of them momentarily, and then so yeah, I don't know, who knows on that one, but yeah, we'll see if anything more comes to fruition from this.
Indeed, we'll have to see with stewards reports whenever they come out from the lead. We'll not have no idea when that might actually be. We have a yellow. Is that so fresh?
Yeah. He's kept the car running.
Oh, he's lost his front wing.
Yeah.
It's only a virtual, I believe.
Is anyone gonna?
Doesn't have a front wing though. He needs to be careful.
We've got Sora approaching the pit entrance, and is he going to make use of this virtual safety car?
Yes,
like
he is.
Yep.
Scott, I believe this is a good opportunity for Scott as well to take advantage of this.
Yeah, is he going to do it?
Rapid we know is carrying on.
Yes, Scott's
Rapid will carry on. Rapid will carry on.
Oh,
we know this for a fact.
Rapid's pitting as well.
Oh. That's cute. The entire field's coming in.
Yeah, potentially a set of mediums to the end for most of the drivers, maybe.
Kirby's going to carry on, which means Kirby's
going
to lead the race.
Is he going to take the lead?
Is he going to lead the race?
He's not quite.
No, he's not.
Lead, but
P2. Nearly.
Yeah, get some good track position.
I mean, mediums will go at the end from here, but that is a bold strategy from the second Alpine car. And I mean, at this point, really, with the Constructors' Championship at stake here, this could be a bold decision here.
I mean, Kirby didn't really have too much to lose by doing this, as So Fresh goes onto the softs. Interestingly enough,
he may well have not selected the right tyres, or the game's not selected the right tyres when he has. I've had that glitch before as well.
Yeah, but yeah, so yeah, the field's a bit more sort of spread out now, and yeah, can Kirby take his tyres to the end here?
I think where Finns has hit the barrier as well earlier in the race, there is a spark coming out of said barrier on the left-hand side.
Okay, that could be interesting.
It's just a random spark that I just saw as they went through shot. So it's all going to be, obviously we know Kirby's going to drop back a few positions, but how much damage can he really do in terms of holding the people back behind him?
I mean, yeah, he's obviously got that track position, so he's powerfully entitled to sort of try and undo that, to try and sort of potentially get each other to battle each other, if that makes sense. And
yep. Oh, Kirby's coming in.
Pitting. Okay.
I wonder if he wanted to pit but couldn't.
Yeah, because Tom was in the pits maybe as well.
I don't know why they didn't. I don't know why they just didn't double stack, because that would have been a better idea. He is onto mediums and he's away back out. He'll probably come back out in a decent position here, probably in P7, P8.
Maybe sort of sensed
P8, probably P7.
That the hard tires just probably won't give him enough pace. He comes out in
P6. He's still ahead of, crucially, the second Williams.
Yeah, that's true, and he's got 1 lap fresher tires than everyone else. I don't know if that's going to make too much of a difference, but it could.
I mean, it could in the grand scheme of things, potentially.
Give a very small margin, but yeah, he's got Angelo not too far ahead, and yeah, that seems to be sort of one of the closest battles, along with Tom being 2.5 seconds behind Vapid.
So while we're looking at the moment with nothing really happening, we've also talked about a few moments that have stood out from sort of real life Grand Prix here. I wonder if there's any other ones any sort of other well known ones that apart from the ones we've mentioned about.
Yeah, have we missed any?
Obviously, as I say, we discussed a few of the sort of ones that everyone knows about. Is they're sort of setting the fast lap of the Grand Prix, so 42.2 from the Mercedes driver. He's ahead by 8.4 seconds. So, while there's nothing really happening, we'll just give him a little. He's had some screen time here, but we'll just give him a bit more screen time while nothing else really is happening at the moment. But rather than that, actually, since I don't know if there's anything we have missed, when you're leading a race, like obviously like Sora is at the moment, and if you have multiple race wins, how different is your actual mindset, or how different do you think the mindset is of drivers like that, to make sure that you just do not make any mistakes?
Yeah, I mean, for the ones that are sort of used to leading races, like Sora probably is, it probably doesn't change too much. But if you're sort of a driver that's not necessarily expecting to be in the position they find themselves, it can be very sort of nervous, and sort of just you go into a mode that sort of just stay on the track, and that can very much sometimes lead to mistakes when you're just trying necessarily to stay at the wall rather than. And we now have side by side for P6 as Button gets past.
Yep, that's in a place I didn't expect a move to be made.
Yeah, I think Kirby potentially let Button pass
141 point. Yeah, potentially. He may well want to go for a move. You can see the blinking light on that Alfa Romeo, which says that he is very low on deployment, whereas Kirby has near enough a full battery.
Yeah, I think that'll be for one of two things. It'll either be to get DRS, or it'll be to, because we know obviously the sort of
look at the difference with slipstream. So when you have the slipstream here,
yeah,
look at the difference here. He's going to immediately go back down the inside. No, he's not. He will have it on the next straight though.
Yeah. Just going to say maybe it's to do with the sort of the internet issues that Curry's been having, and not wanting to maybe affect a car behind, and yeah, obviously in this case Button. So let's see if he does go for a move into turn 3
here. Not going to make it here, but That's a place where you need to be pretty much right alongside a
Yeah.
car up the inside if you want to make the move there. I mean, you can make the move around the outside if you really want to, but it's a difficult move to try and make.
Yeah, it is, and I think the sort of the better chance for Kirby Bloom to turn one, but obviously that would give Button the DRS for the next straight, obviously. So yeah,
Indeed, so he just has to sit behind really, because knowing the fact the car in front is low on battery is going to help massively, knowing that.
yeah, and potentially trying to save the battery for maybe another safety car, virtual safety car, potentially if we get one. So yeah, that would obviously be quite a close finale if that does indeed happen.
Indeed. He's just about hanging on to DRS still. It's very close between the two drivers. He's using a little bit more of it now, but that's because he's fell out of the range, so he may well have just kept hold of DRS. We'll have to see as we come through here, but saving a lot of that battery's helped him out a bit here. Has he managed to keep it? Yes, he has. And he's got closer as well, so 0.6 of a second. This is a little bit more the range where you think you may well could have a Daniel Ricciardo lick the stamp and send it type moment. Is it going to happen? No, that's a very early braking there from the Alpine driver. He doesn't want to make the move there. Half a second now, so he's under half a second, so he should be able to make the move into this next corner if he can get the job done. A little bit wide there from the Alfa Romeo in front, so can he do it? But the Alfa Romeo driver used DRS here. This Button tries to get himself away. I don't know if there's much, but still stuck behind for the moment.
And yeah, obviously by staying behind the Alfa Romeo, Kirby's sort of just forcing Button to sort of use up his energy and his ERS, so that could potentially help
what
a move
little he does
later on. And then if a move is made, it would sort of make it harder for the Alfa Romeo driver to sort of get back past if that opportunity does come. So I think could be sort of similar tactics to those that Kirby could be playing here.
Who knows, but he's fell out of DRS range once again.
He does,
and I don't know. He probably won't get it this time.
He does have to stay within the DRS for that to work. So yeah, he's just
managed to get himself back in just.
Yeah.
He's having to use a lot of the battery though, just keep himself there. It must be better downforce on the Alfa Romeo in front for him to actually not. He seems to be struggling through the middle sector. He's definitely out of range this time.
Yeah. Can he still get a good enough slipstream though to get it for the next straight?
Potentially here he's going to use a fair bit of the battery to try and get himself a little bit closer. He will get himself into range when it comes in the next zone, but he's obviously going to struggle to get past from that range, because at that range you're going to be getting a little bit of dirty air as well. If you're over say 7/10 back, you've got to make sure that your card at the front end of the car does not try to wash out, knowing the fact that it will do that if you're in the dirty air or someone.
Yeah, he pretty much halved the gap down that straight there, so it's obviously still worked out.
Yes, used a lot of the battery in the process, but yeah.
Around.
Nope, he's not managed to get it yet. He's still not quite mad. He just has to say, he needs to keep close as Sofresh isn't to the pits again. I believe it probably will be for another set of soft compound tyres. I would think it's the only logical choice for the second Williams drivers. But at the moment, looking at potentially how many points the Alpine team are going to get versus the Williams team, it looks like Alpine may well come out on top after this round.
It is. It's going to be close, that's for sure. Obviously, Rapid has already scored 1 point in the sprint race earlier on, so it is very close, and it's looking like it's going to stay that way until the season finale.
Indeed, once again though, Kirby is really struggling to keep himself within range, and he's went from 100% battery about 4 or 5 laps ago. He's now about the same battery usage as the car in front probably.
I think he just about got the DRS this time around.
He did. That was fairly close. Both cars now with no ERS to use, so it's now a fairly even battle.
It is, yeah. obviously Kirby with the 2 laps fresher tyres. Um, so that could slightly give a bit of an advantage, but apart from that, they're on, yeah, I just say pretty even grounds right now.
Yep, he's got himself close. I mean, I think Kirby has more straight line speeds, but then Button has more cornering, or more grip through the corners.
Yeah, it's obviously the sort of difference in setups allows each driver to be quicker at a different point in the circuit. So that's obviously sort of why we're seeing the struggling of Kirby to stay within the DRS. But once he does get it, it's just not quite enough because he's not quite close enough.
I will say for a Baku race, this has been fairly civilised in terms of there's only been the one safety car. I was probably expecting a few more.
Yeah, we've still got a few laps for that to change, but yeah, it's at the moment looking just like the one full safety car and one virtual.
Yep. I will say I'm quite surprised for sometimes what you can see safety cars on in this game. You can actually have safety cars come out for stuff that I believe isn't really even safety car worthy.
Yeah, and then there's things that should definitely be a safety car, which sometimes doesn't see any. So yeah, it's sometimes a little bit varied as well.
We'll go off that for a bit, because obviously I've been sitting on that for a few laps. The only other real close battle on track is between Vapid and Tom, and obviously this very much is obviously the battle of the other two in terms of the two and the constructors as well. We've got obviously Tom and Alpine versus Williams or Vapid. Sort of as we get towards the end of the season, I mean, Alpine probably has had the better team overall in terms of the drivers that can score points, but Williams have had, I think, a little bit of luck here and sometimes in the side of Vapid, because Vapid has had a few moments of weakness, but for the most part has managed to sort of keep it quite solidly together.
Yeah, he's obviously had a really solid season, and obviously is set to probably be the drivers' champion this season. But yeah, he's obviously had that bit of luck over the season as well, which other drivers haven't necessarily had. So that's helped a little bit as well. And yeah, it's obviously made it pretty close in the constructors as well.
Indeed, you are correct on that front. As I say, it was only half a point going into this. I reckon that so Vapid will get third and So Fresh will get eighth. Obviously, we know that So Fresh, he's not really going to put anything. He's not going to do anything sort of too rash at this point. He's kind of booked in that eighth place spot. It's more about does either Vapid or Tom get into each other's head at this point with the gap that they currently have? How do you reckon either driver's going to get into each other's head at this point in the Grand Prix?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the gap sort of around 2 seconds or so. So I think, really, the most at this point Tom can do is just try and keep the pressure there and sort of hope that Vapids does sort of make some sort of mistake. And yeah, it's obviously, it looks like at the moment that these current positions could be how it finishes, but yeah, with one small mistake could potentially change all that. So yeah, it remains
I mean,
to see
it only takes one mistake to really find yourself within DRS of the car behind once again, or the DRS of the car behind to find himself within DRS of the car in front. And to say the walls are still close, so you happy to welcome one of your tyres or your wing, as we do have a yellow. That is So Fresh, I believe, at turn 1 once again.
Yeah, we obviously.
I think he's just gone down the escape road.
Yeah, we obviously saw earlier in the race, obviously with Finn's, how the walls can sort of be sort of unforgiving in a way if you do make that mistake. Because obviously it was just one mistake from the Red Bull and he was sort of out of the race. So, oh, that's just
That's another yellow
yeah.
again. That's, I believe, just So Fresh, who's had another incident there. He's spun coming out of that corner. I wonder if that Zora would have been ghosted, so it can't be anything to do with that. As he's now getting lapped in this Grand Prix. I wonder if he has damage from potentially that. 'Cause he's struggling a little bit with keeping that car sort of going around properly. No, it looks like he's actually alright. It's just rear traction. I think he's having trouble with for some reason, even though he's on the youngest tyres.
Yeah,
I didn't keep him so going perfectly fine.
maybe it's more to do with the potential overheating of the tires from what might have happened. So that could
That probably
be
is the
what's
case.
happening in this instance.
Sorry about that. So at this point in the Grand Prix, I mean, pretty much, unless anything does actually happen there, as Kirby has left the session, so that's an unfortunate thing for him, but he has done most of the race, so he should still get points out of this.
Yeah, and he's got
Uh,
a decent gap behind as well. So,
I mean, the car behind him is a lap down, for
yeah,
the most part. I believe Tom's made a little bit of a mistake on this lap, because it was under 2 seconds, so around about that, it's now 2.2. So he needs to gain the ground back once again. It's not a battle. It's not like a race we're seeing a lot of battles. It's more tactical, really, because
yeah,
it's trying to figure out where you think you can make the car in front of you make a mistake.
yeah. We saw at the start, and then sort of after the restarts, it was pretty close, and there was sort of nose to tail moments. But yeah, obviously the field's just sort of spread out a bit after that, and yeah. Oh, and
Oh, Kirby's
it's
car's he
the
should
AI
be fine. He
spreading.
should be fine. Yeah, he should be fine.
Yeah,
He'll be put into a set of salts, I would think.
could potentially take control and then get the fast slap.
There
But
goes
yeah,
Kirby once again. So he's having trouble again, but he should be alright towards the end of the Grand Prix. It would be funny if the
yeah.
AI manages to get a fast slap
I
in the
was
Grand Prix.
thinking that. Yeah, I was just thinking that it would be some pretty comicals if that did happen.
Don't know what the AI difficulty actually is in these lobbies. I think that you can check, but no ideas. That's but after all of this. It's Tom Gorian once again, as I say, still on board with the Alpine driver, but it looks like they're on the same age of tyres, but Vapid's kind of responded a little bit this lap around in order to keep Tom Gorian behind. The gap was down at about 2.2 seconds, but it seems to have opened back up again.
Yeah, obviously everyone's just sort of in clean air really, so the gaps are sort of just opening up really. Most for most drivers really. So that's from our perspective a little bit unfortunate, but yeah, sometimes that's just gonna happen in a race.
I mean, if we don't see many safety cars in this particular race, I know next week's race there is a lot of opportunities for people to make a lot of mistakes, knowing the nature of where we're going next.
Yeah, obviously. Next up, we go to Belgium after the break that we've got. So, and yeah, we've got Button in the pits as well.
Going for fast lap of the Grand Prix,
yeah,
potentially. As I say, Belgium it's a fearsome track. Belgium, I mean, it's definitely one of the more historical circuits on the track, or on the calendar rather, and I feel like as much as this track Belgium is difficult for a different reason. It's because some of the bumps can very easily catch you out.
yeah, and obviously it's a very undulating circuit as well. So yeah, it's what was I gonna say? I was gonna say yeah, there's good overtaking zones going down the Kyle Straight and into the chicane there, and then heading towards through Blanchemont and into the bus stop as well. That's obviously another good overtaking zone as well. So it's got a lot of character, and it's got some decent places for overtaking as well. And yeah, it's gonna be interesting to watch the drivers go round when they do so in the new year.
Yep, obviously, what a track, as they say, to come back to Spa, because it is a lot of drivers' favourites in terms of how they actually go about it, and I know there is a lot of dangers with a track like Spa, but if you get it right, as I say, it's a track that is very rewarding if you can cook up a good lap around there.
Yeah, very much so. And yeah, it's obviously the circuit where Michael Schumacher first drove in a race weekend as well. So it's
Yep.
got the history of that as well.
Yes, and I believe that the first of the rest, and as I say, the rest was that from that particular race. Obviously, knowing what he managed to do. Meanwhile, as we've been just chatting away about sort of real life stuff, we are pretty much right at the end of this race, and it's not quite the same dominant victory as it was last time out in Kyoto, but once again, even though he faced adversity earlier on the race, and I wonder if he made it, I wonder if he did that deliberately to try and make his having a slightly more interesting race early on. The safety car kind of, I wonder without the safety car how this race would have been, but TMS Sora, well, not really much of a surprise there. It's going to be 2 race wins in a row, and across the line, and it's race victory.
Yeah, and
Scott is going to
obviously,
bring it home in P2. Sorry, Karen.
yeah, obviously, very good race victory. Obviously, having that drive through penalty at the start, but yeah, as yeah, it's a cross line Vapid P3 and Tom P4.
P4, yep. The good result there for him. He will not be probably the most impressed with what happened in the sprint race, but not really much you can really do about that, and it's going to be Button and Kirby to come across the line, not too far apart, or a little bit far apart from each other, but these two are going to come across the line and finish up in P6 and P7. Well, that very much was a race of... Well, I can't really say a race of attrition because we only really had 2 cars DNF from that, which, considering how the track is, I'd say only losing 2 cars wasn't too bad.
Yeah, not too bad at all from the drivers, and yeah.
Yep, TMS Sora gets driver of the day, and even though he's probably got a few of them from me, he's going to get that from me today because I think he had to work a little bit more for that one.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, as you say, I had to work a little bit harder this time out, and yeah, it's another top step of the podium for Mercedes.
Yep, kind of carrying that team at the moment, obviously, because he's not really getting... It's not quite probably his back's probably not quite as sore as Vapid is from carrying Williams at the moment, but it is victory for Team Sora. Scott was finishing in the second, and Vapid, as I say, keeps Williams in the championship, the constructor championship hope with 3rd place. So, your driver of the day and winner, TMS Sora. Had to work a little bit hard for it, but in the end the gap's still 13 seconds over Scott in the Haas, who finishes P2, and Vapid takes the final spot on the podium. P4 for Tom Gorin. A good result considering what happened in the sprint race for him with Angelo. P5. He will probably have some words potentially to say over the incident that happened between himself and Tom, or he may well just put it towards the stewards, who knows. Button will finish in P6 with Kirby in P7, and then So Fresh will be the final finisher in this Grand Prix with Senna and Finn's. Obviously Finn's very early exit from him in the corner where Leclerc crashed, I believe. So that is going to be all the action from that here, as we just wait to go back to the session. And our next race will take us to the fearsome Spa-Francorchamps circuit in Belgium. That's going to be, well, let's just say, there are a few places that could potentially catch the drivers out, but this has been round number 21 from Baku. We will see you in the Eifel Mountains next week at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, and unless you have anything further to say, Cal, we will end the stream there.
Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in, and yeah, hope for to come back for some exciting action when we return in the new year.
Yep, as I say, as Cal just said there, yep. All the drivers, enjoy your Christmas break. We will be back, I believe, if this calendar is correct. We'll be back round about January, probably January 7th, somewhere around about that, for Belgium. And then we will have, I believe, we are going to also have a slight update to the calendar as well. We will have Portimao coming in for round number 22, and then it'll be round number 23 and something else, I believe, to round off the season. I believe around 24. I think 24 races we will have, and then it will be Jeddah to round out the season. But to all the drivers, enjoy the Christmas break and the New Year's break. Try not to get too drunk, and if you do, don't drink and drive. Anyway, on that basis, we will see you next week. Oh, not next week, after the break in Spa-Francorchamps.